So today we're going to be going over the ABCs of ABE, which is just unpacking the acronyms and the tests that are part of adult education. So, what makes me qualified to talk on this subject? I am the South Hills program coordinator, and I joined Literacy Pittsburgh in January of 2023. So I'm fairly new. And before I worked at Literacy Pittsburgh, I was doing nonprofit fundraising. So when I came to adult education, I was blown away and very confused at all of the acronyms that were used and thrown around. So I made an acronym glossary to help myself, and it has certainly helped some of our new staff members as well. So
It's been
I'm
an amazing tool, I have to say. Yeah.
well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm first going to go over some of the common acronyms and some of the basics, and then I will go over some of our partners and some of the places that Literacy Pittsburgh works with. And then I'll go over the tests that Literacy Pittsburgh uses, and then the specialized tests that some of your students might start working towards. So to start the basics, we have ABE, which is Adult Basic Education. And that is, so an ABE student is any student who is American born and is studying for goals such as uh, GED or entering college, any program like that. And then we have ABE2 students, which, as Susan mentioned, one of her students has moved on from the ESL testing. So ABE2 is a term that we use inside of Literacy Pittsburgh to denote students who have tested out of our ESL testing. They are really advanced, but they still, at any age, at any level, any student can learn. So there are many students that still want to keep improving their English, and we still want to serve them. So we denote them as ABE2 students to help distinguish from the ESL and from the true adult basic education that is GED studies and entering into college and career programs. And then another term that is used often is ASE, which is adult secondary education, which is sort of under that same umbrella. Um, so a lot of our students that are ABE students, so adult basic education students, are under our college and career readiness program, which is just classes that are math and reading focused for mainly American-born students. So that is CCR, and that's a term that we use to mark our classes that are meant for students studying either for GED or college or career. So eData is a a reporting system that Literacy Pittsburgh enters all of our information for our students that are under government grants into eData. So it is the PA Department of Education, PA Adult Education reporting system. And so that is part of our jobs as coordinators at Literacy Pittsburgh to make sure that that is up to date with all of your student information, all of your tutor information, and the hours that you are logging in your weekly reports. So going into the how we kind of measure a student's learning ability and success, we use one of the things we use is grade equivalency. We don't use this as often as some of our other markers, but this is the equivalent to what their equivalent level is in the US education system, third grade, 10th grade. So those grade equivalency for reading levels, for math levels, what the average student in a certain grade would have under their belt, is the grade equivalency that is talked about when referring to students. But the main thing that we use is called an EFL, which is an educational functioning level. So this is used more to describe an adult learner's level within Literacy Pittsburgh versus their grade equivalency, because the grade equivalency can sometimes be problematic. Adults don't always want to hear, oh, you're at a third grade reading level. So instead we use EFL, which gives them more, it gives them more agency and more, it makes it feel like they have more agency and more control, and a little bit then like they're being treated as adults because they are.
Is that
So
is that a number or is that a description?
so the EFL is going to be a number, but there's a number and then there's sort of a term that goes with it. So for an EFL, for a very low level speaker, that bottom for ESL students is going to be a 7, which is very beginning English. And then as it goes up, it continues. Into intermediate, which is around 10 or 11, and then advanced, which is when they start, when ESL students start testing out of our program, out of our ESL program. So then we go back down to 1, which is where our adult education, our ABE students start. And if you've seen a TABE score before, which is our test of adult basic education, which is used for our adult education students, they score between 1 and 6. So that is our American-born adult education scale, and then ESL starts at 7 and goes to 13. So that is a way to kind of give them that that marker of like, this is the level that they are at, without saying this person, without assigning them qualities that they may not feel they have themselves, like a 3rd grade reader or or illiterate or anything like that. We use that EFL scale, that EFL to denote their level. And then I've been using the word ESL a lot. So ELL is English language learner, and then ESL is English as a second language. So at Literacy Pittsburgh, we use both terms. However, ELL is a better descriptor for our students because many of our students speak more than their first language and English. Many times their students know 3, 4, sometimes 10 languages. So an English language learner does not, that term does not downplay the multilingualism that a lot of our students possess and are very proud of. But ESL is the very traditional term that is used, that you've probably come across many times as a tutor. So then for HSE, which is high school equivalency, that is the high school equivalency diploma is what students receive after they pass all of the exams required to get to that point. So you've probably heard of GED before, and we'll go over what the GED is, but students are not actually earning their GED. That is not the diploma that they're earning. They're actually earning a high school equivalency diploma. The GED is a company that has a test that is used to measure the ability of the student to meet certain requirements that then earns them their diploma. So they must pass these tests in order to get their high school equivalency diploma. And then We have a program called Information Technology Fundamentals, or ITF, which introduces our computer hardware, software, databases, networking, security, and software development. So ITF is something that our students work to enroll in, and they usually have to be at a certain level, a certain EFL, educational functioning level, to be able to enter a course like this. So this is the term that you might come across as your student becomes more advanced. And then one of our classic ESL activities is called an LEA, which is a language experience activity. So this language experience activity is an approach where a student will relay an experience, tell a story about something mundane or something that they find interesting. And the teacher will write it down as they say this, as they tell this story, this experience out loud. And then once the teacher has written it down, it is used by the student and teacher as a literary source. So they use it to, if the student does not have any literacy, they can use it to study, well, this is what this word looks like that you just said. Or it can be used to ask questions because the student already knows the story. So they can use this as a source of literacy. So that is an LEA. And then there are 3 different LPs that you might come across, which got me in a little bit of trouble when I first started here. So LP could mean Literacy Pittsburgh. It could also mean learning plan, which is what is generated for students after a match is made to guide the learning through the assigned materials. So if you have a student, you've probably had a learning plan meeting where you've been given the learning plan and the materials, and you go over with the coordinator what is going to happen and sort of the steps for tutoring. And then LP is also a lesson plan, which you can find on lptutor.com for many of our materials. And this is your day-to-day plan for tutoring with your student. Then MSG, well, it also stands for something very tasty. It is also measurable skill gains, which is what we report to the state to prove that our students are learning and improving. So we test our students every 40 to 60 hours of instruction. And we test the students when they enter the program, and then at that point after 40 to 60 hours. So once we do that, if they have improved by increasing their educational functioning level from a 7 to an 8, that is a measurable skill gain. So that is what we report to the state, saying this person learned, this person has improved their English by this amount, by this marked amount. And that's what continues to bring in our funding and prove that Literacy Pittsburgh is a great source of education for the community, and that the tutors are doing great things. And then the NRS, which is the National Reporting Standards, that standardizes how we measure those improvements to students' academic abilities. So the National Reporting Standards has its own scale that we use on the back end to make sure that we mark these measurable skill gains correctly. And then we have TANF, which is the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. This is not necessarily a Literacy Pittsburgh term. This is a national program run by the government. However, a lot of our students are at some point eligible for TANF as low income, and some of them are even using this program to help themselves, to help stay afloat. So this is something that you might run into with some of your students. They might be applying for TANF, they might be on it and there's a lot of paperwork involved to prove that you still need it, that you're using it correctly. So that might be something that you come across. And then the last bit of the basic acronyms are another ESL, ELL concept, which is subject, verb, object, which is just a term or a set of words that denote which part of a sentence we're studying, and the sentence structure of the American vernacular and the grammar in English. And then VOTEC, which is vocational technical, it is relating to providing or receiving vocational and technical education or training. So that is something that we come across with our career services and helping students get into programs that they would like to study in. All right, so with all of the basics in place, we work with a lot of organizations and some partners. And this is not an exhaustive list, otherwise we would probably be here till 10 o'clock. But this is some of the places and partners that are abbreviated pretty frequently or have acronyms themselves, and just so that we can unpack this and know about some of the organizations that Literacy Pittsburgh works pretty closely with. So we work with an institute called APRI, which is the A. Philip Randolph Institute. And they work with a lot of labor organizations. So Literacy Pittsburgh, we have some of our students enter their career or apprenticeship programs, specifically trade programs, to improve their employable skills. So we do a lot of work to help our students get to the level that where they can enter the APRI programs, because there is a certain test score that they must have to enter the programs. So we help students get there, and then once they're scoring at those levels, then they can enroll in the APRI programs. Then there is BCAP, which is the Bhutanese Community Association of Pittsburgh. So it is it's a cultural association meant to support the integration of Bhutanese people into American society and to ensure a high quality of life for those people. So Literacy Pittsburgh often does joint cultural celebrations with BCAP. And many BCAP members are also students at Literacy Pittsburgh. So there's a lot that goes on between Literacy Pittsburgh and BCAP. Even just having students and the association referring their people to our programs, because they know that Literacy Pittsburgh will help students have a higher quality of life and integrate into society, into like Pittsburgh and American society. So one of the many community colleges that we work with, Butler County Community College, or BC3, is where a lot of our high school equivalency graduates move on to, especially Butler County residents. However, there's also some very specialized programs at Butler County Community College, including an aviation program and a horticulture program that are pretty top-notch. So that is one of the post-secondary education institutions that our students often move on to. And there's CASA, which usually when we speak inside of Literacy Pittsburgh, we just refer to as CASA, but it is CASA San Jose, which is an organization that connects, supports, and advocates with and for the Latino community. So Casa San Jose provides classes, students, and tutors for the English language learning classes. But then Literacy Pittsburgh provides training and testing for training for the tutors and testing for all of the students to ensure that there's quality instruction and that there is measured success for Casa San Jose, so that they both can so that we both can continue with our funding and serving the community in the best way possible. So one of the organizations, or not organizations, but companies that we work with is the Center of Applied Linguistics. And these are the people who make the tests that we use for the ESL students. So that's the Best Plus 2.0 and the Best Literacy. Another community college we often work with is CCAC, which is the Community College of Allegheny County. And many of our ABE students attend after earning their high school equivalency diploma, or some of our ELL students will continue on to Community College of Allegheny County after completing English language instruction, testing out of our Best Plus or Best Literacy. And the Community College of Allegheny County also does have ESL classes for advanced students. So sometimes if our students want more after they've tested out of our ESL tests, we will give them the option of going to CCAC, and it's a $79 class to continue with their education if all of the options at Literacy Pittsburgh are exhausted. And then CCBC is the counterpart in Beaver County. So many of our Beaver County students will attend this community college after working their way through our program. So EARN is the Employment Advancement Retention Network, which is EARN is the purpose of EARN is to address the needs of welfare and low-income individuals. So often we work very closely with EARN offices to serve their clients through education. So most of the time, EARN offices are referring students to us, and we are helping helping their clients. We don't do a lot of referrals out to EARN. It's usually the other way, where they send students to us. But we work pretty closely with the EARN offices in Pittsburgh, and we have a staff member that is dedicated to working with these offices and going on site to the offices pretty frequently. One acronym that you might be very familiar with is the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council, or GPLC. And this is Literacy Pittsburgh. We changed our name a few years ago, but sometimes some people outside of our organization don't know that. I found myself when I first started, when I was telling folks about where I was working, I would have to say GPLC before they would recognize where I was working. But this is one and the same. We are the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council, but our name is Literacy Pittsburgh now. So, and we still serve all students, and we serve the same students. It's only a change in the name. So Isaac is the Immigrant Services and Connections. And it is with a referral to Isaac, immigrants and service providers connect with 8 local agencies. One of them is Literacy Pittsburgh, to serve immigrants in Allegheny County. So only Allegheny County residents with a language barrier or cultural barrier who fall into the category of immigrant, child of an immigrant, individuals from U.S. territories, U.S. citizens born and raised outside of the continental United States can be served. So unfortunately, our students from Beaver, Butler, and Washington County cannot be served under Isaac. However, Literacy Pittsburgh does have quite a few student services coordinators that can help those students in particular. But Isaac is a great resource. Literacy Pittsburgh has an Isaac office, so that's where we send a lot of our referrals through. And there are many other organizations that are a part of Isaac to help with pretty much anything that a student could need, such as food, housing, legal help, immigration, finding community, school supplies for their children, anything that they might need, we can help through Isaac. And then one of the partners within Isaac is JFCS, which is the Jewish Family and Community Services. And they work very closely with us to help refugees and immigrants coming into Literacy Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh in general. So some of the things, but not just some of the many things that JFCS does for our students is refugee resettlement, permanent and temporary housing, and the big one is immigration legal services. So Literacy Pittsburgh offers citizenship courses. We also do support tutoring for citizenship with our students. However, our classes are under a grant by USCIS, which is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So we have a federal grant to teach citizenship classes. So through that, any student that's taking our classes in citizenship is eligible for a referral to JFCS for immigration legal services. And any of our students really are eligible for that referral. However, priority is given to students who are in our citizenship classes. So, and the wait list is between 6 months and a year. However, our students that are in those classes do get priority. And citizenship is a long process. So the legal help, the immigration legal services helps the students fill out the big form that they must fill out in order to be considered for citizenship, because tutors and teachers cannot help them fill it out. It's a legal issue. So we often recommend that our students, when they are ready to apply, be referred to the legal services within JFCS. All right, and then the next acronym is OCTE, which is the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, which is the office within the Department of Education that exists thanks to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, known as WIOA. And this is the federal office that governs what Literacy Pittsburgh does. And then there is PA Women Work, which is another group that we work very closely with. Their mission is to empower women to advance in their careers and achieve self-sufficiency through life-changing career development programs and mentorship. So we partner with PA Women Work for the New Choices career classes that we offer. And then we often refer our students to their Refugee Immigration Services for Employment, or RISE program. And PA Women Work does help everyone, not just women. So we often refer women and men to PA Women Work. But this organization was started to empower women, and now it is mostly a way to empower empower people to get into improved careers and into a career path. And then PDE is Pennsylvania Department of Education, and that's the state office that governs what we do here at Literacy Pittsburgh. So we report to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for a lot of our grants and funding. Another college that our students will move on to is the Pittsburgh Technical College, which is also which is formerly known as the Pittsburgh Technical Institute, or PTI. And this is one of the many institutions that our students continue to further their education after working through our program. All right, nearing the end, we have SHIM, which is the South Hills Interfaith Movement. And so SHIM mobilizes community resources and implements sustainable programs to help neighbors meet basic needs and achieve self-sufficiency. So many of our students from the South Hills and the Jefferson Hills area take part in some of the programs that SHIM offers. They have a food pantry, a clothing closet, they do back to school supplies, they do financial counseling, they have youth mentorship, family support, including parenting classes, and they have a lot of community building. So SHIM is housed in the same building as the Jefferson Hills office and our family literacy program. So they often work very closely together, and many of our students take great advantage of this program, of all of the programs that they offer. All right, and then the last acronym of all of the places and partners that we have is WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And so this is an act that is active through the U.S. Department of Labor to help reduce barriers to employment and get people into high quality jobs and careers. So OCTAE administers adult education and literacy under this act. And so Literacy Pittsburgh is able to be what we are and help people because we have WIOA. All right, so that's all of our partners, or at least a non-exhaustive list of all of our partners. So within testing at Literacy Pittsburgh, there are a couple terms, just 3, that are helpful to know, which is BEST, which stands for Basic English Skills Test, and then CAT, which is Computer Adaptive Test, and then ETS, which is Educational Testing Service. And they make the Educational Testing Service makes specialized tests, including the HiSET, which is a high school equivalency exam, the TOEFL, which I'll explain in a little bit, and some other tests. Computer adaptive means that as you are taking a test on a computer, as you answer a question, the computer and the test will adapt to give you a different question based on your answer, whether it was correct or incorrect, give you an easier or a harder question. So some of the tests that I will be talking about are computer adaptive. And then the BEST is just the acronym for Basic English Skills Test, which is BEST Literacy and BEST Plus, which are the tests that I'll go through. So there are 2 ESL tests that we use at Literacy Pittsburgh. The first is the BEST Plus 2.0, which is a computer adaptive speaking test. So as we test our students, asking them questions, as we score, the coordinators, the proctor will score the answers as they are answering each question. And based on our scores, it will adapt to ask either an easier or a harder question to really pinpoint a student's educational functioning level. So this test is given to all non-native English speakers entering our program, whether we know they are very advanced or we don't. This is the first test that we will give every non-native English speaker. So the second ESL test that we use is called the BEST Literacy. And this is a print-based reading and writing test. So we give this to non-native English speakers who have tested out of the BEST Plus 2.0, have low literacy levels, and have life-based goals. So this goals that are about family, maintaining health, and reading mail, writing checks, life-based goals, not any sort of higher education or career goal. So as I had mentioned, there are quite a few students who are ESL but test out of our program, test out of our ESL tests. So when this happens, they take the ABE test that we use at Literacy Pittsburgh. So the one test we use is called the TABE, which is the Test of Adult Basic Education. And this provides a solid foundation for assessing skills of adult learners. So this test was made for American-born students. It was made for true ABE students. However, because there are many students who test out of our ESL tests, this is the test that we will give them if they have different goals. So there are 3 subtests, which is math, reading, and language, based on what their goals are. So this test is given to the 2 groups of students, the American-born native English speakers, and then non-native speakers who have tested out of the Best Plus 2.0 or the Best Plus and the Best Literacy, have high literacy levels or post-secondary degrees from their countries, and have academic or professional goals. So this is what most of our students that test out of the Best Plus end up going to immediately instead of the Best Literacy, because many of our high-level English speakers have that post-secondary degree from their country, have a high literacy level. So we're not giving them the Best Literacy. All right. So you can see here, this is kind of what Literacy Pittsburgh uses to determine what test a student should be given. So if a student is an ESL student, we give them the Best Plus immediately. And then based on their goals, either life or academic, we'll give them the Best Literacy or the TABE. And then if they're an ABE student to start, they're going to take the TABE immediately and take the subject based on their goal. So if they are a GED student, they're going to be taking reading and math, so that we can get a sense of their full ability in both areas, because there are 4 tests within the GED that involve both reading and math. And then the language is a shorter test, and it's more sentence structure and grammar. So that's certainly a test that's helpful for those who are looking to enter sort of an English program or college English or college writing. All right. So we have some specialized tests that some of our students will study for. The first is the GED, which stands for General Educational Development. GED Testing Service is a company, and they produce a high school equivalency test. So this test is to earn a high school equivalency diploma. And any student looking to get a high school equivalency diploma, and almost all Literacy Pittsburgh students that want to get their diploma, are taking the GED. So it is 4 tests that are taken one at a time, either online or in person. There's math, reasoning through language arts, which is the reading portion, science, and social studies. And then the other high school equivalency test is called the HiSET, which is a high school equivalency test to earn a high school equivalency diploma. So any student who is looking to get that diploma can take the HiSET, but most Literacy Pittsburgh students do not end up taking this test, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So it is 5 tests, and it's all taken in person. So there's math, language arts reading, science, social studies, and language arts writing. So why do most Literacy Pittsburgh students end up taking the GED? Well, the GED is 4 tests instead of 5, and you have to pass all of the tests in each of these tests to earn your diploma. The GED is computer only, while the high set is paper. So this is where most students consider the high set because they want to take their test on paper. But as the GED, even if you're going in person for a test, you're still taking it on a computer at a testing center. But the GED can be done in person or at home, while the high set can only be done in person. And the reason why most of our students end up taking the GED is that there's no required writing. For the reading test for the GED, there is an essay section, but you can easily pass the reading test without writing anything for the essay. Well, and if they write something, it doesn't count against them. Well, with the high set, there's a required writing section. So there's one more hurdle that they have to get over before they can get their diploma. And both can be taken one test at a time and have the same end goal and are tests approved by the PA Department of Education. But a lot of our students end up taking the GED, and that's what we're the most equipped for. Certainly if a student comes in and wants to take the high set, we can help them set them up with a tutor. But we are definitely very well equipped to help students get through the GED. So I mentioned earlier the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language. So this is to prepare students for university and immigration. So Literacy Pittsburgh students who are looking to apply to universities in the United States, particularly very competitive universities, are going to be taking this test. So the format, it's 2 hours long, and it tests mostly reading and writing abilities, just how well you would do in a university setting. We do at Literacy Pittsburgh, we have a academic English course for our ABE2 students, so those very advanced students, where they do TOEFL prep as part of that course. All right, so then there's the TEAS test, which is the test of essential academic skills. And this test is to determine the preparedness of potential students to enter a nursing program or allied health program. So Literacy Pittsburgh students who are applying to nursing schools or allied health programs in the United States are the ones that are taking this test. So the TEAS test can be taken online or in person, but it must be taken all in one sitting. So it's 4 sections and totals to 209 minutes that they have to sit and take a test. So unfortunately, it's not like the GED in that, or the high set, in that you can study for one section at a time, pass it, and then start a new section. You have to be prepared for everything all at once. So there is a math section, which allows you to use a calculator and covers numbers and algebra, measurement and data. And another thing about the TEAS test that's sort of odd, but part of the testing is that there are 4 questions that will be unscored in each category, in each section of the test. There are going to be 4 to 6 unscored questions, and the student does not know which questions are unscored. So there's going to be an additional couple questions in each category. Then there's a science section, which covers anatomy and physiology, biology, chemistry, scientific reasoning, and then it has those unscored questions as well. And then there is a reading section, which has key ideas and details, craft and structure, integration of knowledge, and then those unscored questions. And then an English and language. So there's a reading and then an English and language section. which covers the conventions of English and knowledge of language and use of language and vocab in writing. So that is the TEAS test. That's the test that the students that want to take this test study for longest, because they have to do it all at once and feel prepared to do it all at once. And then the last test that you might come across is the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And this measures the developed abilities and helps predict academic and occupational success in the military. So ASVAB scores are used to determine if applicants to the military are qualified to enlist, and it helps assign enlisted personnel to an appropriate job. So military applicants are the ones taking this. So sometimes that is our adult education American-born students, but there are some of our ELL students that are taking this test as well, wanting to either enlist in the military or once they become citizens, take this test to enlist. So it's taken all in person, and you have two options. It's either computer adaptive, which is that you answer a question and then it adjusts based on your answer. Or you can take it paper pencil, which is a little bit of a shorter test. However, there's definitely going to be a follow-up because it's not adaptive. So they need more information once you finish that test. So this is sort of the idea of computer adaptive, where you answer and then it gives, if you answer correctly, you get a harder question. And then if you answer that correctly, and so on and so forth. So the measured aptitudes on the ASVAB are verbal, math, science and technical, and spatial, which is a little bit different than a lot of the tests that we come across at Literacy Pittsburgh. But it makes sense for what this test is intended for, which is the military and military service. All right. So that is all of the acronyms that I've got for you. Does anyone have any questions?
So Miranda, this is Betsy. Will this be made available somewhere so that if we need to reference back, because there's a lot of information here, which is very good. So is it published somewhere on one of the websites that we have access to?
Yeah, I will make sure that this presentation will be posted to Spark Success so that you can refer back to it. And then this is also recorded, so this will be posted on YouTube either tomorrow or Friday at the latest. So you can always refer back to the presentation as it is being given as well.
Perfect.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate you spending the time this hour to learn all of these acronyms and words, and hopefully this is helpful in terms of knowing some of the stuff that's going on at Literacy Pittsburgh. Oh, I'm glad I'm glad to see
Thank
that,
you.
Susan.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was
All
very
right.
helpful.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Miranda.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.